Good evening. Good to see everybody here. Some new faces, some old faces, but we're here to help the kids and promote the softball and baseball in Berks County and adjoining areas. I don't have much to say. I'm just going to introduce our Reverend Gerald Warren to give our invocation.
Let us pray. What a joy it is, Lord God, Heavenly Father, to gather here once more, united by our love for the game of baseball. To be sure, on this dark, cold, windy January night, cares and concerns of our own lives and of the world around us may well be on our minds. But reminded of your never-failing love for us, your invitation to put our trust in you, we can turn our attention to the knowledge that the warmth and renewal of spring will come before we know it. That in just a little more than a month, spring training will get underway, signaling the renewed hope that a new baseball season brings. And so we pause tonight to enjoy this 59th annual Reading Hot Stovers Banquet, with its memories of seasons past and anticipation for the new baseball season soon to come. It's for the kids that we gather. Thank you for the young people we honor, for the abilities you have given them, the accomplishments for which they will be recognized. Thanks, too, for the Hot Stovers' support of young athletes, for coaches and parents and all who are positive influences in their lives. Bless the food that we're about to enjoy, Lord God. Let it nourish us to live for others, to your glory. When this evening is ended, may we go from here with your blessing, ready to take on the challenges before us, whether on the baseball field or in daily life. May we put our faith in you, and so be inspired to respond to the needs of those around us, to use all that you provide to offer hope to the world you entrust to our care. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Arts. Thank you, John. A reminder, later on in our program, we're going to have a series of items auctioned off in a live auction. For those of you that have been here before, you know what we're talking about. This year, we have 3 items. A picture of the 2004 World Series champion Boston Red Sox that is autographed by manager Terry Francona. We have 4 Phillies Diamond Club tickets with a tour of Citizens Bank Park and field passes for batting practice. And we also have 4 tickets to a Chicago Cubs home game at Wrigley Field. Those will all be a live auction later in the program. At this time, I'd like to introduce the head table. Starting from my far left, one of our distinguished speakers here tonight, Baseball Hall of Famer, Fergie Jenkins. Next to Fergie is the treasurer of the Reading Hot Stovers, Luke Hoffman. I believe those are boos, not boos. Next, right next to me, is former Phillies pitcher, Dickie Noles. Moving to my right, one of our speakers as well, Rich Donnelly. We've already heard from John Henry, the president of the Reading Hot Stovers, who's sweating profusely after that speech. That was 2 weeks well worth it, let me tell you, putting that one together. And finally, one of our speakers and a former scholarship winner from the Reading Hot Stovers. I won't tell you what year, but it's a long time ago. Tom Freeze with us tonight. We have several dignitaries with us here tonight, including quite a few former kings of Baseball Town. Please welcome right here in the front, Mr. Rocky Santilli. Rocky? Also from the Reading Hot Stovers, Charlie Flannery. Stand up, Charlie. He is standing. Oh, I'm sorry, Charlie. My bad. He told me not to mention this, but I'm going to anyway. He's over here at the Reading Fight and Phil's table. This will be his 50th year at the stadium. He started when he was 2. Francis Ducky Turner, former king of Baseball Town. And the incoming King of Baseball Town is here tonight. Mr. Greg Edge is with us. Edger. We would also like to welcome Doug Richard from Coberly and Associates, and former Reading Phillies pitcher Craig Holman is here with us tonight. Welcome, Craig. The Hot Stokers would like to acknowledge tonight's sponsors. Very important to recognize the people that help make this possible every single year. The Cocktail Hour beer was donated by Union House of Bechtelsville. Another sponsor is Tompkins Vis Bank with 12 area locations for your personal and business banking needs. The Jackson Democratic and Social Club for Reading High Paul Cooter Jones Scholarship and sponsoring our speaker, Dickie Noles. Dickie, that's not your first sponsor, right? That we have tonight?
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Not your first sponsor? I don't think so either. I can't wait to hear from Dickie, by the way. I'm really excited to have him here this year. Also want to welcome and thank Dennis Haddock of the Northeast Tap Room for the Burt Moore Scholarship. The family of Randy Gumpert, sons Mike and Jeff and daughter Cindy Knauer for the Randy Gumpert Scholarship. Telepublications for producing tonight's program book. They always do an outstanding job with that. And I'd like to personally thank Rich Scarcella from the Reading Eagle and all of the baseball and softball coaches for their help for putting statistical information together for me for tonight's honorees, both teams and individuals. And one more announcement from the Hot Stovers, and this is very important as we approach our 60th anniversary next year. If you would like to learn more about the Reading Hot Stovers or to volunteer with the organization, we certainly welcome you. We raise money for the scholarship funds throughout the year to support our student athletes. Many of you have participated at our sports trivia night or in the golf tournament. If you, your family, friends, organization, or business would like information about how to sponsor a scholarship fund, make a donation, or assist in our other events as well, talk to a board member tonight and send an email to readinghotstovers@gmail.com. Would all the board members for the Hot Stovers please either raise your hand or stand up so people know who you are. And we thank you for all of the fantastic work you do every year in putting this together. Thank you so much for listening to that. And enjoy the rest of your evening as we get set for dinner. It's being served. A couple of reminders. The silent auction closes at 7:30. You have to get your bids in for that. We thank Tony Arnold of Mount Penn Sports Cards and the Rawlings Sporting Goods Outlet in Lancaster for their help and support with the silent auction. A quick reminder, there is a $5 service fee for all charged items. And please remember to get your parking ticket validated before you leave tonight. You can get that done at the front desk. Okay, dinner is served. Enjoy your meal. Thank you. Please welcome Tom Freeze. Good, Tom. Half hour.
Good evening. I wasn't quite ready because, in most banquets I go to, the keynote speaker usually goes last. When I was asked to speak here at the Hot Stovers banquet, I was telling my son, I said, the Hot Stovers want me to speak at the banquet. He said, why? I said, I'm not really sure, but my biggest concern was what am I going to talk about to interest the crowd here when you have Hall of Famer Fergie Jenkins here and Dickie, Noles, and Rich Donnelly. And he said, Dad, I don't agree with that. He said, who would want to come listen to a Hall of Famer talk about his great career when they can listen to you talk about how you beat Antietam? I think he was being sarcastic, but I'm not really sure. I'm truly honored to be here tonight. I'm definitely out of my comfort zone with public speaking. It's not my thing. I got a lot of advice out here of what to do, the whole thing of picture everybody naked, but when you look around, that's not going to work. So what I did, I took my contacts out, and I can't see any of them, so this is working out pretty good.
So that's what he was doing.
I want to congratulate the award winners tonight. I have a great appreciation for the hard work and long hours you guys put in to achieve the success that you have. It's a great honor to be here at the Hot Stovers Banquet and be recognized as the best of the best. So congratulations to all the award winners tonight as well. I personally would like to thank the Hot Stovers for everything they do for the young athletes in this area. The hard work, they don't get the recognition they deserve for the long hours and hard work they put in to continue to keep the love of baseball alive in this area. And to give the memories to the kids that are leaving here tonight. When I was 18 years old, it was 1974.
I wasn't going to mention it.
When I was 18 years old, I was invited back to the Hot Stovers Banquet to receive the Reading High School MVP award for baseball. And it was held at the Abe Lincoln Hotel back then. And I remember when I got there, they took us to a side room where all the speakers and the award winners were going to be. And I sat in this couch, an 18-year-old kid, and I felt someone sit down next to me. And when I looked up, it was the great Brooks Robinson. And my jaw just dropped to my chin, to my knees. And I looked up at him, and he put his hand out, and he said, "Hi, I'm Brooks Robinson." And being young and nervous, the first reaction was, "No shit." And this is to me, the greatest third baseman, maybe in the history of the game. And we talked for 20 minutes that night. We talked baseball, like we were best friends. He introduced me to Al Oliver, who was there as a speaker, and Del Umser, who was a speaker. He even yelled over to Earl Weaver one at the other end of the room and said, "Hey, sign this kid before somebody else signs him," and Earl Weaver gave a thumbs up. And it was just a very special night for me. I walked out of there feeling really good about myself. It was just an unbelievable experience, and that's what the Hot Stovers Banquet means to the young athletes here. So for the committee, if you don't know, it lasts forever. I mean, it's a memory that I'll never forget. So I thank you guys for that memory that I carry with me 46 years later. I would like to just gear my speech tonight, if I could, real quick, to the young athletes in the audience tonight. Share with you some of the ups and downs I experienced in my career, and maybe some of the life lessons I learned, so it'll help you in your career, in your journey now that starts right after high school. First thing I'd like to say is, dream big. You need to dream big. I hear a lot of things. When I got into coaching, I started going to clinics and reading books, and I wanted to be the best coach I could be. And they always told you, don't give your team unrealistic goals. You're setting them up for failure. You're setting them up for disappointment. But I don't think there is such a thing as an unrealistic goal. I think you got to set the bar high. When I coached at Holy Name and Fergus Catholic, every year our goal was to win a state championship. That was it. I mean, why else would you put on a uniform? I can't see telling the team, well, let's just try to have a winning season, or let's just try to make the playoffs. By striving high and setting goals to get there, we'll achieve so much more. So dream big, understand the goals and the steps it's going to take to get there, and commit to that. You need to stay focused on your dream. My dream when I was 10 years old, started pitching for Moose Little League, was to pitch professional baseball. That's all I wanted to do. I loved it. I never thought about anything else. And when I got to fast forward to high school, my senior year, the expectations for me were pretty high. And I had high expectations for myself as well. So my senior year comes, and back then, we played an 18-game high school schedule, an 18-game Legion schedule. We didn't play the number of games that kids play today. We didn't have social media where we could make a video of ourselves and hit a button and send it to 200 colleges and hope someone gets interested. We had to hope that the right person saw you at the right time. So there wasn't a lot of time to excel, to show you what you could do. So my senior year came, and I started at 0-3. Lost a 3-hitter at Freedom, lost a 1-hitter at drag bunt. In the first inning of the game, lost 1-0 because the other pitcher pitched a no-hitter. And in the third game, I went up to Easton, I had 19 strikeouts, and somehow still lost 5-4. So I was 0-3. I was 0-3, and I was feeling pretty down. And that year we had a coach called Cooter Jones, who I know the award is given out for. Cooter was an excellent coach. That was his first year, my senior year, and he got me refocused. And I was focused on the fact that I was 0-3 and not what the rest of the season had in store. And he got me back on track, and I owe a lot to him for that, because I ended up winning the next 7 games. East Penn League Pitcher of the Year, and had college coaches coming to the high school, and where I committed to Westchester State. And all I heard the whole time during my high school year was, come June drafts, you're going to hear from somebody. You're guaranteed you're going to get drafted in June. And June came and never heard a word. All right, so I had to refocus again on my Legion career. My last year of Legion, We had a great team that year at Greg Post, and I went 10-0. We won the Berks County Championship that year. I got to pitch in the Legion, Eastern Legion All-Star game at Veterans Stadium. It was just an awesome summer. So I came back from Legion, and I'm sitting up in my bedroom. My mom comes up and says, "Tom, you might want to take this phone call. It's the Pittsburgh Pirates." And I thought, my dream is finally coming true. It's finally going to happen. So it was Joe Consoli of the Pittsburgh Pirates, and he said that, "Tom," he said, "my intentions were to call you tonight and tell you that we would like to come tomorrow and sign you to an undrafted free agent contract with the Pirates and have you on a plane the next day to Florida." And before I could say, "Yes, let's do this," he said, "But I talked to your dad, and your dad's pretty excited about you going to college and playing at Westchester. You're being the first child in this family to go to college. So we have a close relationship with Westchester, and we'll watch you there." That was that close. That was that close. Obviously, the communication between my dad and I weren't on the same page. So we talked about that for years. The next lesson I learned was to believe. You know, guys, believe in yourself. In a world where a lot of people will stop believing in you, you have to believe. When I got into coaching and took over Holy Name the year before, they were 2-14. And when we had our first practice, I saw there was skill there. And it didn't take long to realize that we as a coaching staff needed to get them just to believe in themselves. They were just used to losing. And when you get a player to believe in themselves, and then they believe in their teammates, it becomes a powerful tool. And we actually qualified for district that very first year, just by getting kids to believe in themselves. The next thing is, guys, surround yourself with good people. You know, you're going to lose friendships along the way, because some of your friends are going to sway the wrong way. You know, you get in a car with kids who are smoking dope, that's on you. You know, you start hanging with kids who are getting in trouble, that's on you. If you're seriously about your goal, you want to stay straight and narrow, and you may lose friendships along the way. You can't get caught up in the bad thing. You know, they always say if you hang with dogs, you'll catch fleas. Everything good that happened to me in my life happened from the good of other people. You know, that's why I say surround yourself with good people. My success as a coach only happened because I surrounded myself with good assistant coaches. They made me look good. Head coach always gets the press, but it's the assistant coaches who really do all the work and help you look good. And they're sitting here tonight, by the way. But you have to surround yourself with good people. Next thing is to fail big. Don't be afraid to fail. You know, if you're not failing, you're not trying. Understand this, you will fail at something. So at some point of your life, you will lose, you will embarrass yourself, you will suck at something. It's inevitable, you will. Reggie Jackson struck out 2,600 times, leads Major League Baseball in strikeouts, yet he's in the Hall of Fame. Brett Favre leads NFL in interceptions and fumbles lost, yet he's in the Hall of Fame. Thomas Edison had 1,000 failed experiments until he invented the light bulb. Guys, it's how you handle the failures and the disappointments that gears you to your success. The big one for me is understand life is not fair. You're going to say this a lot of times throughout your career. Life is not fair. When I went on to Westchester, it wasn't the best fit for me. And you know, I pitched a lot, and I did well, but I was thrown with pain in my arm most of the time. And when I went to the coach and told him, because I was either starting or relieving, and I went to coach and I said, you know, if you're going to have me up in the bullpen today, I'd rather not do it today. My arm is killing me. And he looked me straight in the face and said, well, freshmen don't get sore arms. So I kind of knew that wasn't going to be a good fit for me. So I decided not to return to Westchester. It's something I regret to this day, you know, because I disappointed a lot of people. But I felt it was a decision I had to make for me at that time. That summer, I get a call from Gary Ruby of the Scranton Red Sox of the Atlantic Collegiate Baseball League, and went up there and pitched in the summer. And it was a great experience. Our catcher was Joe Madden, who's now manager of the Angels. And obviously, Joe and I took different paths. You know, I coach high school, and I'm working at the same job here in Reading for 42 years. But Joe just keeps jumping from job to job to job. So I feel really bad for him. I've always said his name. last thing is, guys, get your education, get your degree. It's important. Your academic ability will far outweigh your athletic ability. It opens up so many more opportunities for you. Understand this, and this is important, and I'm not trying to scare you away from your dream, but 5% of high school players play college baseball. 10.5% of college players get drafted. 0.5% of high school players will get drafted. High school players making the big leagues, 1 in 6,600, which is a percentage of 0.015%. Guys, your education is important. Your education is important. I'm not saying don't strive for that. Don't strive. Stop striving to play in the big leagues. I mean, put the work in, and who knows what may happen. Get that education. You know, I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. I think all the ups and downs, and I only shared a few. One of them, the main one, was when I was playing for the Scranton Red Sox, and I wasn't at Westchester anymore. I worked out on my own. I had to be in college in order to play there, so I took courses right here at Reading Area Community College. Took a part-time job to pay for it because my parents said, we're not paying for college anymore for you. And then I joined the basketball team to stay in shape, and I threw on the side. I went up to Scranton that summer, and halfway through the season, I was 6-1. I was second in the league in ERA. My arm was feeling good, and the All-Star game was coming up. And the All-Star game was at Fenway Park in Boston against the Cape Cod League All-Stars. And being a Red Sox fan, but being a Red Sox fan, that would have been a dream come true. And if you wanted to get seen and maybe get drafted, that's the game you want to pitch in. So our coach went out to New York that night, and they picked the All-Star team, and he came back, and he pulled me aside and said, "Tom, you didn't make the All-Star team." I said, "How could I not make the All-Star team?" He said, "Well," he said, "the ACBL felt it was an embarrassment to have an All-Star pitcher on our team who was going to a college that didn't have a baseball program." So you see, life can be unfair. It's just how you handle those things that makes it happen. So everything happens for a reason, I think. I think the man upstairs has a plan for us. I think all the ups and downs and the things I experienced, I think made me a better coach in order to talk to our players about it. My son, believe it or not, ended up going to Westchester. He graduated and got his degree, and he holds some pitching records there at Westchester today. So I think things happen for a reason. I'd just like to end by saying a quote from the great John Wooden, who said, "Make every day your masterpiece." Back in 2015, when I ended up, unfortunately, having open heart surgery and a triple bypass, and it changed your perspective on things when things like that happen. See it, and living each day, making each day your masterpiece is the way to live. Make every day the best it can be, whatever it is that you can do. Your masterpiece is going to be different than the person inside of you. His masterpiece is going to be different than the person inside of him. But that's the way you want to live life. Live every day, make it the best you can. Thank you for listening to me. Enjoy the rest of the night.
Thank you, Tom. We'll see you in 2066, another 46 years.
You got it.
Right now, it's time for one of the most important reasons that we're here tonight, and that is to hand out some money to some deserving players. We have 5 $1,000 scholarships to give out tonight. Hot Stover's President John Henry will present the awards. Our first scholarship tonight goes to a Brandywine Heights softball player. She was a 3-year starter at first base and a team captain her senior year. She had a career batting average of .391 with 101 hits and 10 triples. She graduated with a 4.6 grade point average and is now attending Westchester University. The Reading Hot Stover Scholarship goes to Brandywine's Amanda Geisinger. Our second $1,000 scholarship will be presented to a Twin Valley graduate. She caught for 4 years for the Raiders, served as team captain as a senior, and was twice named to the All-State team. She batted .308 with 16 runs batted in as a senior and finished her career with 82 hits. She had a 4.5 grade point average and ranked 7th in a class of 282. She is now attending Catholic University in Washington. Congratulations to Samantha Phillips. Accepting on Samantha's behalf are her parents.
Thank you both. Okay.
Our next honoree is for the Bert Moore Reading Hot Stovers $1,000 scholarship. For those of you who have been coming to the banquet for a long time, Bert was heavily involved with the Hot Stovers. This was his time of the banquet to hand out these awards, and he'd be sweating profusely, and he put on a great show for everybody. We miss him every single year. Our recipient is a Kutztown High School baseball player. The center fielder hit .309 last season and played a huge role in the Cougars district championship, going 3 for 4 with a home run in the tournament. He ranked 2nd in a graduating class of 110. Now attending Syracuse University, congratulations on winning the Bert Moore $1,000 scholarship to Alexander Groff. Accepting for Alexander are his parents. At this time, I'd like to welcome the Gumpert family to come forward to assist with the presentation of the Randy Gumpert $1,000 Reading Hot Stover Scholarship. Randy Gumpert pitched 10 years in the major leagues and was a 1951 American League All-Star. His scholarship is presented to a Brandywine Heights graduate who batted .462 as a 4-year starter at shortstop, finishing with 134 hits. She finished with a 4.6 grade point average and is now attending Penn State University's main campus. The Randy Gumpert Scholarship goes to Haley Herzog. Accepting for Haley is her head coach, Don Roach. Tom mentioned him in his speech. Paul Cooter Jones played for the Reading Indians from 1954 through 1959. He went on to become a longtime baseball coach at Reading High, leading the Red Knights to a state title in 1983. The Reading High MVP is awarded the Paul Cooter Jones Award, which includes a $1,000 scholarship. This year's winner was a pitcher and an outfielder. On the mound last season, he was 3-3 with a 2.71 ERA. He threw 3 shutouts in just 7 starts. He struck out 22 38 2/3 innings and was named All-Berks Division I. Academically, he ranked 36th in a class of 901. Now attending Susquehanna University, the Paul Cooter Jones Award is presented to Dominic Yeager. Congratulations to all of our scholarship winners, and how about that? We just gave out $5 grand from the Hot Stovers. That's pretty impressive. If you know someone who would like to have that scholarship at the banquet next year, go to ReadingHotStoversBaseball.com. All the information to apply is right there on the website, and it's just a great job that the Hot Stovers do year after year to hand out all of that money to our local student athletes. Again, that's ReadingHotstoversBaseball.com. We were actually supposed to have 2 Hall of Famers with us tonight, but when George Brett found out that Dickie Noles was here, he bailed out immediately, right on his hemorrhoids again, just like all those years ago. Our next speaker is no stranger to Phillies fans. He spent 11 years in the majors with 6 teams. He was originally a 4th-round pick of the Phillies in 1975. He pitched here in Reading in 1978 and 1979. Never got in trouble a day, right? Never got in trouble. Many believe he did turn around the 1980 World Series when he knocked down George Brett in the 4th inning of Game 4. The Phillies, as we know, went on to win the World Series. If you have never seen it, Google it. It's an impressive pitch. George Brett doesn't think so. Since the mid-90s, he has served as the Phillies EAP, which is the Employee Assistance Professional. And he is a nationally recognized substance prevention and motivational speaker. You can still see him quite a bit at First Energy Stadium or at Coca-Cola Park in Allentown throughout the summer. He's there on a regular basis. Please welcome back to Reading, Dickie Noles.
Tom, I got to tell you, that was excellent, and I could take what he did, Rich, and really just give that to our athletes. They'd be better off with what they're learning today, wouldn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, there's always a good coach in your life. I was thinking about that when Tom was speaking. People that turn you around or help you in your life overcome something or get better at something. One of mine's up here. I had the privilege of playing for Rich Donnelly. You'll get to hear from him later. One of the greatest people I've met in my life. Even though he was a pitcher and I played on the same team with Fergie, he was kind of like a coach too. And I know you young student athletes in here, you probably have great stories about coaches that have helped you. But Tom, I know you've done a better job with the path that you chose than you would have if you had played baseball. I really feel that way after listening to you. So congratulations to you, my man.
Thank you.
You know, I'm famous for one pitch, right? One pitch kind of tells you about my career. But before I talk about that, and I've had 14 of you to ask me about that, I got to tell you something Richie Ashburn said to me one time. Everybody remember Richie Ashburn?
Oh, yeah.
Right? You know, I think he spoke here more than anybody. Think about where we're at tonight. We're in the #1 DoubleTree hotel in the world, right? It's the world, right? Where you at? There you are. In the world, right? This has got to be the #1 banquet in the world. Sitting out there, fellowshipping with all you people and having you people to come around, and many of my friends I've known for many years here. That was pretty unique. I felt like that was better for me than for you. Just being here was awesome. But just thinking about that, you know, that one pitch, I want to tell you something that Richie said to me one time. You know, me and Richie shared an office. When I got done playing baseball, I was a community service guy, and I had a little cubicle down at the vet. And I had a box right in my cubicle for my mail. And then there was Richie's cubicle, and he had a box for his mail. And I would come in every day, and I'm thinking, you know, I played in Philadelphia, I played with the Cubs, nobody knew who I was in the Cubs. I played with the Rangers, nobody knew who I was with the Rangers. I came back to work for the Phillies, and I kept hearing about that pitch, so I think, okay, that's good, people know who I am here. At least I played baseball for a while. So now I go down, I go to my cubicle every day, I go to look at my mail, and there's a lot of them. So I started opening it up, Richie Ashburn. Why is his mail in mine? You know, Richie Ashburn. And I'd have about 3 pieces of mail, and his mail would overflow into mine. But every day he would come in, I'd say, Richie, why don't we just take my name and or get another box for you, man? I get all your mail. Sorry, I'm opening it up. So Richie would come in every day, and Richie really liked me. When I was a player now, I got to back up a little bit. When I was a player, I pitched a game one day, and I went in to watch. I got knocked out. I went in to watch the television. That happened to me a lot. So I'm watching the rest of the game, and I hear Richie. And he goes, Harry, you know, Dickie Noles wasn't very good today. You know how Richie is. He's a very truthful man. And then I'm listening to it. I got ice on my arm. You know, I'm sitting there watching it. And he goes, I don't think that boy could have thought of striking a phone booth today. And I'm sitting there, and I'm still listening to it. And he says, I think he might be the biggest waste of talent I ever seen. I'm going, Richie, what the heck? So after the game, as we do with the media, we get on the bus, and we're leaving to go somewhere. I said, Richie, you were burying me. And he goes, how do you know? Richie, you're on television. He goes, I thought, yeah, you're right, Dickie, I'm sorry, but I really stand by my remarks. And you know, later on, I got out of baseball, and Richie loved me because I was in community relations. Richie was a big community guy. I don't think there's been any hospital I've ever been to, and I'd see Richie Ashburn's name on the wall. Go down to Children's Hospital, you'll see Richie Ashburn's name. You'll see Harry Callis's name. But I got close to Richie, not just being in the cubicle, but we kind of got close, and I kind of liked it. And Richie was always talking about the era of baseball he played in. You know, the blacks were playing baseball then when Richie played, so you had all the greatest players playing baseball. And Richie loved that. And you only had how many teams then, Fergie? 10?
16.
16 teams, 8 teams in a league. And you probably had 9 or 10 pitchers. So you had the best baseball players playing. And Richie loved that era. All of you know that Richie didn't like umpires. So this particular game, he's getting on the umpires, and he's getting on them so bad that the Phillies called him in and said, you can't say those things you're saying about umpires. And he said, all I said, I would never let my daughter marry one. Yeah, but that's okay. But all the other things you said leading up to that was a little harsh, Richie. And he said, oh, okay. So Richie comes in, and here he comes. He's walking into vet, and there's our community relation girl, Regina, Marianne, they're all in there. Now I'll come in through the back door. And Richie's sitting down. He always smokes that pipe. He's got that pipe in his mouth, and he's smoking it. And, you know, he ain't supposed to smoke in there, but that's Richie Ashburn. He's smoking his pipe. And Regina sees me coming. She goes, because the day before, one of the things he said on the radio was, or television was, Harry, I think I played in the greatest era of baseball. These players would have a difficult time playing in my era, I can tell you that. They're spoiled, they're entitled, and Richie's been dead for a while now. And so anyway, I hear him saying that, and I come walking in, and Regina's going to get me. And Marianne, they said, what about Dickie Noles? Could he play in your era? And Richie thought about it for a minute. He took a couple of hits off of that pipe. And he goes, yeah, Dickie could have played my era. So I'm walking forward, and I give it one of these. Attaboy, Richie. And then he took a couple of hits off of that pipe. He goes, but I don't think that boy would have got a whole lot of those guys out. Trying to give me a compliment, and still had to jab me a little bit. But it was fun being with the Phillies. It was fun getting drafted with the Phillies. It was fun being there for the 1980 World Series. I never really truly realized how nice that World Series was or how impactful it was. When I signed with the Phillies in 1975, we won in 76, 77, 78, couldn't get past the playoffs. 79, we went a step backwards, got Pete Rose. In 80, we finally won. It was a great division that year, and we played the greatest playoff in history, and I've talked to many of you about that. I think it was the greatest playoff ever in the history of baseball. And we're playing in Houston, and Nolan Ryan's got us beat 5-2. 4 games in a row, we couldn't hardly score a run, extra inning games, and now we got Nolan Ryan on the mound. He's beating us 5-2. They had that big scoreboard in Houston Astrodome, and they were using mental skills long before anybody else was, Rich. They had a little sign up there that said, when Nolan Ryan is winning after 7 innings, especially with a 3-run lead, he is 117-1. And we're looking at each other like, this don't look very good. He's throwing 100 miles an hour. But we rallied and tied the game and went on to win, and now we're in the World Series. And I'll tell you something, being in the 6th game of that World Series and being in that bullpen and looking up at those fans, Philadelphia Phillies have the greatest fans, and you are Philadelphia Philly fans. And I will tell you what, when I walked out on that field, I really got a feeling of what the World Series was all about. That was one of my it probably is my biggest moment in baseball. But going back to Game 4, I didn't think I was going to get in the World Series. I pitched in the playoffs in Dallas Green. I was very angry at Dallas Green. We're going to Game 4 out in Kansas City. We'd won the first 2 games. Kansas City wins the 3rd game. I don't know how many of you remember this, but the game started a little rough for Larry Christensen. It was 4-0 in the first inning when I came in. And I quickly made it 5-0 in the 2nd inning. But Willie Mays Aikens, I pitched good in that game now. You can go back and look at it. But Willie Mays Aikens hit a home run off of Larry Christensen in the 1st inning. Then he hits a home run off of me in the 2nd inning. And what people don't realize about the pitch to George Brett was I was mad at Willie Mays Aikens because Willie Mays Aikens came up and hit a home run. Now, I'm a different pitcher. When guys hit home runs off me, I like to watch them because I could never hit a home run. So I like to watch those suckers. But this one here, I watched. It went a long way. When I turned back around, Willie was sitting in still at home plate. Willie Mays Aikens still standing there watching it. I heard our first baseman, who was my greatest teammate ever, Pete Rose, never missed nothing, and I hear him holler, Willie, you better run or he's going to hit you in the head. And I'm going, me? I better say something. So that's Pete Rose. So I walked up a little bit and I said, Willie, you heard him, you better run. So finally he starts jogging after he walked about halfway up there. And when he runs all the way around the bases, I'm staring at him. And then he hits home plate. And they're up 5-1 at that point, and 5-0, I can't remember. But all I know is when I went to the dugout, I went back to the dugout and I made up my mind, I'm going to hit him. Especially when I sit down, I got Tug McGraw coming in right beside me, and Tug's always got good things to say. We're in Missouri, and Tug sat down and said, you need to knock somebody down. And I said, I will. He goes, you have to show me. I'm in Missouri. I go, cute, Tug, I got it. And then Marty Beisler walks by me and says, when are you going to knock somebody down? I go, I want to pitch in a World Series. I just got out of the jam. I want to go out and, that's what I've dreamed about since I was a kid. So I said, I will. Then Bobby walks by and looks at me and says, I heard you. Somebody's got to go down. I got it. So I go out for the third inning. I pitched the third inning. I pitched really good. Fourth inning comes up. I look at the lineup. We know who's coming up. I got Brett and I got Willie Mays Aikens. I'm going to get it. Now, I got to be honest with you. I would never throw at a guy's head. But we learned to throw up there when we didn't want to hit somebody in the minor leagues. It was a different era. We throw up there, he's supposed to get out of the way. If I was going to hit him, I was hit him in the rear end. So I had made up my mind. I'm going to hit Willie Mays Aikens right in the butt, and I'll get it over with. And here comes George Brett. Now, I'm a George Brett fan, and so was my family. So George Brett comes up to home plate, and he's taken a long time to get in the box. He's messing with Mike Smith and talking. And I got to be honest with you, that kind of made me mad. Rich, I was a little bit different on the mound. What do you think? So I was a little bit mad right there. And I may not have been a great pitcher, but I would get very competitive. So I kind of mumbled something at Brett. I was like, you better get in the box. So he gets in the box. I threw a fastball right by him. I threw another one right by him. And then I looked in there and I said, I remember Dallas Green. And Dallas Green, I could hear in my sleep at 3:30 in the morning, trust me. So I remember Dallas Green saying, hey, when something happens on the club, you get a guy 0-2, why wait? And I remember hearing that, and I said, I better do something to this guy. So I wound up and I let it fly, and he hit the ground. And when he hit the ground, that whole stadium went silent. And I really didn't think it was that bad of a pitch. I'd done it before. And so he hits the ground, he turns around, and here comes Jim Fry. And Jim Fry runs out, and he's going, stop it right now, stop it right now. And here comes Pete Rose. Pete Rose made the pitch. Pete Rose come running in, and Pete Rose goes, get off the field. I'm old enough to whoop your rear end. Get off the field. You don't want to mess with him. And I hear them going at it, and I'm starting to laugh. And Rose goes, he wasn't throwing at him. And then, Fry don't know what to say. Fry's looking around. He goes, how do you know? He goes, if he was throwing at him, he'd have hit him. So Fry don't know what to say about that. Now Fry's getting off the field. Their players were all hollering at me. And Rose walks towards me. And Rose goes, and every player in that dugout was looking at me with their hand around my throat like they were going to do something harmful to me. And Rose said, pitch your own ball game. If you want to hit any of them, go right ahead. They all sat down real quick. But I believe that pitch didn't do anything to change the World Series. And I'm honored by that. I'm honored that all of you came out there and some of you told me that. But I will say one thing. That first baseman helped change that World Series because he took that pitch, and it wasn't Dickie Noles, some nobody pitcher knocking down a great Hall of Famer. It was the Philadelphia Phillies knocking down you, and what are you going to do about it? I think that was the most impactful thing of that pitch. I think that was the big thing of it. But anyway, that's the pitch. I'm famous for one pitch. Mitch Williams is famous for one pitch. Mine was a strike. Mine was a ball, his was a strike, which is hard to explain, but I don't know, you might get that. But anyway, but I would like to share something with you. I mean, Tom got my heart over there talking about what he talked about. And I started thinking about, our lives are not made by the dreams that we dream, but by the choices that we make. And I believe that failure will never overtake anybody if your determination to succeed is strong enough. And I'm going to share a little story with you about that. When I was a kid, I grew up in Charlotte, North Carolina. You can tell, right? I mean, I called home the other day, and my brother answered the phone, and it was like this, Dickie, what y'all doing up there in Philadelphia? And I go, did I talk like that? He said, boy, if you don't slow down the way you talk, you're going to have a heart attack. I said, if you don't hurry up, it's going to be Christmas. But I grew up down south, and I was a Atlanta Braves fan. Hank Aaron, that was my player. I loved Hank Aaron. Now, when I became a senior, it's weird. I got drafted by the Phillies, and I liked that third baseman for the Phillies, wore those white shoes on the road with those powder blue uniforms. So I changed, and I got drafted by the team that I liked. But I always thought I was going to be a Brave. And I always dreamed of being a Major League Baseball player. When I was in my backyard, I'd throw up a ball and hit it, and it was always a home run in the 7th game of the World Series. But I'll tell you something. In 1969 was my love affair, and I was a Met fan. Because all I cared about was the 69 Mets. The man landed on the moon. I didn't know that. But I knew the New York Mets won the World Series. And my favorite player at that time was Juan Swoboda. And I remember the black cap running by, and I said, we got it now. And I didn't even know, who would ever think I'd play with the great Ferguson Jenkins after being a Met fan? Boy, people in my family didn't want to hear that, but I was in love with baseball. Now, I went out for baseball. My first experience for baseball wasn't very good. The story I'm about to tell you is honest God's truth. I'm not embellishing a little bit. But so I go out for baseball. I had this friend of mine. We have something else in the South y'all don't have up here. We have kids that run around with snot coming out of their nose. And there's a lot of Northerners living there now, so I don't see it as much. And I had this friend of mine, Billy Hoover. He had 2 lines coming straight down. I just thought it was a part of his makeup. Now, I'm a kid, And Billy comes by me, and he says, Dickie, we're going out for Little League Baseball. I said, I ain't playing no baseball. And I thought to myself, I've never played baseball. He said, come on, you'll be good at it. You're good at kickball. So everything Billy did, I did. So I said, okay. So I followed Billy. We went down to the Little League field. The coach said, hey, you want to play? I go, yeah, I'm here. He goes, do you have a glove? I go, yeah, I got a bunch of them at home. You know, we wasn't that well off. And I got a bunch of them. But what-handed are you? I said, right hand. He threw me a glove for my left hand. I went out to the outfield. I'm trying to put it on my right hand. Billy was a center fielder. I was a right fielder. Billy goes, no. It goes on the other hand you don't throw with. I go, why would they do that? So I put it on my left hand. And I'm out there. I'm a baseball player. I love this. Here comes the first ball hit right at me. And Billy goes, catch it. And I got kind of close to it. I just let it hit the ground. And it ran and rolled away. And I picked it up, threw it back in. And everybody went, great throw. I knew I was going to be a pitcher that day, I reckon. But anyway, I couldn't hit. And I'm on the club. And every time I went up to hit, everybody was telling me this stupid thing to do, step into the ball. You don't step into the ball, step into the ball. Finally, one day I took a risk. I said, I'm stepping into this ball, and I did. It hit me in the knee. I fell down, started to cry. It's God's truth. And I was crying, and my coach came over and said, don't cry. I said, it's my leg, not yours. I quit. So I started to leave the ball field. And as I started to leave the ball field, the coach said, stay, we need a right fielder. I said, okay. And I stayed, but I didn't play very much. I loved it because I only went in for one at bat. And every time that game would get close to me going in, I'd start getting anxiety, getting nervous. I had my uniform. My grandmother ironed the creases in the pants. And I'd sit there, and guys would come by me after sliding or whatever, and they'd get close. And I'd say, nice going, but don't touch me. I want to keep my uniform nice. And the coach would always say, Dickie, grab your glove and go to right field. I know, coach, but I don't want to. Everybody's got to play, go. And I'd run out there. And every time I ran out there, and you made me think of this, I would go by first base and I'd say, my dream at that time, Tom, was to get to first base. Honest God's truth. Billy hit home runs, he hit doubles, but I don't want anyone to get to first base. So I'd run by and I'd touch it. The only time I ever got there, I'd touch it. Because I'd batted 7 times, I'd struck out 7 times. You can guess how many times I swung a bat? 0. I wasn't stepping into no ball or swinging no more bats. I just wanted to be on the club. But my life was about to change in the 8th game. I ran out, got ready to do my glove, go to right field. The coach said, Dickie, grab your glove, go to third base. I went to right field. They took a little while and said, no, third base. Coach was trying to change me and get me to think about something else. And I was like, third base, okay. I ran to third base, I got ready. The pitcher got ready to throw, and I went, please don't hit that ball to me. Listen, I ain't in right field no more. Thank God they didn't. But I came in and I got ready to hit. And when I got ready to hit, I got up to home plate, the pitcher threw the ball, and the umpire said, strike 1. I said, thank you very much. Now, the pitcher threw the ball again, strike 2. I said, thank you very much. Let's get this over with. And then the catcher. Catcher called timeout. Best catcher I ever seen wasn't Darren Dalton or Jody Davis or Bob Boone. To me, the best catcher I ever seen was Ron Loyne in Little League. That big old guy was good. And he called timeout, and he walked out to the mound. About halfway, he said, throw the ball right down the middle. This guy's never going to swing the bat. He's brutal. He's terrible. He's never swung. When I heard that, I said, yes, I am. The umpire said, you get in the box, you hit, you catch. And I decided to swing the bat. And I did. Guess what happened? I didn't strike out. This is a good story. Holy cow. I hit the ball, and it rolled from me to you. I threw up both arms, and I said, I did it. I turned around looking for my coach. I did it, coach, I did it. I didn't run. The umpire was pushing me in the rear end, and I'm like, get your hands off me. And the next thing you know, I hear a parent, a bunch of other parents laughing. They said, that's cute. That kid didn't run. It's not so cute when you're that kid. I got so embarrassed, I started just to retreat to the dugout. And I heard everybody go, run, run. I said, I've heard it. They said, no, he threw the ball away. The catcher, he didn't pick up the ball and tried to lob it to first and threw it down the right field line. So I took off. California, here I come. That was first base to me. I got to first base, and I got to be honest with you, I never felt so good. I got down to first base, and they were all sitting there clapping for me, and I felt pretty good about it. And Billy was hitting next. Billy came up and hit a ball to left center field. I thought I was going out of the ballpark, and I'm still standing on first. I hear him hollering at me. He's running, and he's going, Dickie, run, run. I said, I already did. He said, no, you got to run, go. I said, I ain't leaving here. It took me 8 games to get here. I'm going to remember that feeling. I learned to play baseball after that, and I fell in love with baseball. And for all you young athletes out there, just like Tom said, believe in your dreams. You have to see yourself at where you want to be, no matter what it is in life. Get that education. If someone like me can make it to the major leagues, anybody can. But one thing I always did, my mother used to walk around with me all the time. My mother was the most positive person I ever met in my life. No matter what it was, my mother was positive. If you've ever seen that little Kenny Rogers video where they throw the ball up, you ever seen that? Yes, I am the greatest. All you young kids, look that up on the internet. It's a really good one. But my mother used to remind me of that because in the end, the boy strikes out. I'll tell it to you. The little boy, he walks up to home plate. He's going to play baseball, and it's a little video. It comes on. It says, "Yes, I am the greatest." It's Kenny Rogers, and a little boy throws his ball up. Ball comes down, hits the ground, swings with all his might, and that's strike one. Kenny Rogers is still singing the video. Ball goes up, ball comes down, swings his bat. That's strike two. They show Babe Ruth, they show Mark McGwire, they show Sammy Sosa, they show all the fans up here in this little ballpark. So it's a really positive video, right? It's getting good. I know he's going to hit a home run. The ball goes up, ball comes down, swings the bat with all of his might, and that's strike three. I go, what kind of video is that? Ball, show the dust hit, and the little boy grabs his bat, grabs his ball. Kenny Rogers is still singing. It's over with for me. Yes, I am the greatest, and I didn't even know I could pitch like that. If you didn't get that, come to me afterwards and I'll explain it to you. That was my mother. She was positive about everything. And one of the things I'll leave you with is my mother told me is our lives are not made by the dreams that we dream, but by the choices that we make. Tom said it. You're going to make choices every day in life. Get up, paint a masterpiece of your life every day and do what's right, and you'll be a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dickie. Great to have you here tonight. Our next speaker was a catcher who hit .230 in 4 minor league seasons. Those numbers may not impress you, but his incredible story will. He went on to become a minor league manager and then spent a long time in the major leagues as a coach, notably with Jim Leland during fantastic stretches in Pittsburgh and Miami, including a 1997 World Series title. He was also the bullpen coach for Team USA in 2017 when it won the World Baseball Classic, and this coming season in 2020, he will be the bench coach for the Mets AAA team in Syracuse. While he has enjoyed much professional success on the field, he and his family have endured personal tragedy off of it. He is the author of The Chicken Runs at Midnight, which tells that story. Please welcome to the Hot Stovers, Rich Donnelly.
Thanks, Steve. First of all, I want to thank Doug Richard for inviting me here tonight, because I got in a little trouble at home last night. It was our 35th wedding anniversary, and I asked my wife, I said, what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? And she says, take me someplace I've never been before. So I took her in the kitchen. So I think I may stay a couple nights here before I go back.
What happened on the yacht?
When I first got here, Steve invited me over to his house, and I don't know whether anybody here has ever been to his house. Beautiful home. And he brought me in and showed me everything, and he showed me this room and the den and this, and he took me up and he showed me the bedrooms, and he showed me the master bedroom. And in the master bedroom, if you've ever been in Steve's house, there's a mirror over the bed. And over the mirror, there was some writing on the mirror. And I went over and I looked at it, and it says, objects in mirror appear larger than they actually are.
Perfect, I love it.
So it was great. It was great. Thanks for having me over. Yeah. I'm from Steubenville, Ohio, home of Dean Martin and Jimmy the Greek. And it's a crazy town, it's a gambling town, whatever, but growing up, like Dickie, my goal was to play or coach for my team, the Pittsburgh Pirates. And in my career, I went through the minor leagues with the Rangers and everything, and then lo and behold, I got a coaching job with Jim Leland and the Pirates. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. I was going back and forth every night. It was like going out in the yard and playing every night and then coming back home. But our team in Pittsburgh, that first year, and I think you guys remember that, in 1986, we were bad. How bad? People would call up and say, what time's the game? And our ticket guy would say, what time can you be here? I mean, we were really bad. And I grew up in a Catholic school. I went to Catholic grade school, high school, college at Xavier University. So faith and baseball were always in my life. And it was never more apparent than how how the two intertwined. And one day in Pittsburgh, we had these nuns with the old habits, the big Dominican habits, and they were sitting behind our dugout. And right behind them was our general manager, Sid Thrift. You remember him? Sid Thrift and his son, Jim. Well, these nuns, every time there was a play, they'd jump up, and, the habits were this big, and Sid and Jim, they couldn't, finally they had enough. So finally, Sid looks over at his son, he says, son, he said, we ought to go to Mississippi. There's only 5% Catholics there. And Jim looked over, he said, no, Dad, we ought to go to Alabama. There's only 2% Catholics there. And one of the nuns turned around, she says, you both ought to go to hell. There's no Catholics down there. So you see how it comes together. See how it comes together. I was, like I say, I was very fortunate to spend almost 30 years in the big leagues. And the older people here know, the young people don't know, and I'm going to educate you a little bit tonight about the two guys on my left. I got the pleasure, and I never thought I would ever get to coach a Hall of Fame pitcher and a pitcher who changed the World Series. And I got to coach both of them in Texas. And Fergie Jenkins, in my mind, not only one of the best pitchers of all time, probably the best control pitcher of all time. And Fergie, I know how you learned how to throw strikes by throwing those rocks of coal at the train, trying to hit the inside, when the doors open as the train goes by. And you learn how to throw strikes. And there was no better competitor in the world. When Dickie just said to me, I was a little different on the mound, I went, oh, if they only knew. If they only knew. But the thing about both of them was they were competitors to the nth degree. And I think to go on in sports, you have to be what I call a freak. And I mean a freak in a good way. A freak means you work when no one's watching, you never make excuses, and you hope that God gave you some ability, and then you try to double or triple that down as you go on in your career. And that's what both of these guys have done. And I got the great pleasure of coaching them both. And I wish you could have all seen them in action, because they were something to see. I'm telling you, they were something to see. A coach once told me, he says, players say this. Players say, play me and I'll show you. Coaches say, show me and I'll play you. And that's about the way it works. You don't need to talk and tell everybody what you're going to do. Go do it. And if you're good enough, there's not a coach alive that will ever bench a good player and play the bad player. He's always going to play the good player because he wants to win. But you got to show him. And that's what you got to do. My dear friend, I got to meet him, Tommy Lasorda, one time. He had a great statement. And here's what he said. He said there's three kinds of players. Those who watch what's happening, those who make things happen, and those who wonder what the hell happened. Which one are you? And that's about the way it works. When you get to the level that these guys got to in their career, they're the ones that made things happen. And that's what you have to do if you want to be that elite player. And I always tell young kids, in your room, when we were young, we had idols, and we put stuff up in our room to help motivate us. And nowadays, I think the biggest word is if. Just write that word up in your room. You always say, if I want to go to college, you got to get good grades and you got to get good test scores, or you're not getting a scholarship, right? That's the way it goes. If you want to be a college player, you got to work your butt off every single day. If you want to be a pro player, double down on that. You got to work hard when no one's watching. When all your buddies are laying around playing their games, you got to go work. You got to get in the weight room. You got to do whatever you do. That's what you have to do. And most of the good players in the big leagues, if you go back when they were little, they were a freak. They were a freak in their work ethic, and a lot of them had great ability. But as Dickie and Fergie will tell you, there's a ton of players in the big leagues who didn't have the greatest ability in the world. And they made it all the way to the big leagues. In my life, I've been very blessed. Jim Leland and I are probably the two guys combined that have more time in the big leagues than anybody who never played in the big leagues. Because I was a great 120 hitter, and I think Jim was a 180 hitter. We were two backup catchers, but we learned. We learned from older guys, Jim Fergosi. We learned from guys who were ahead of us, our idols. We watched them all. We learned from Billy Martin. I got to coach for Billy Martin. I got to play for Ted Williams. You learn from these guys, and as you go on in your career, that's what you do. You sit around and talk and you absorb everything. I was blessed. I always wanted to be a player in the big leagues. When I couldn't do that, I said, well, maybe I could be a coach. And I've been blessed to spend over 30 years in the big leagues, win the World Series, and 2 years ago, won a gold medal for Team USA, as to beat every other team in the world. But in my life also, I've had some tremendous tragedy, and I have 8 kids. And I'll tell you the quick story, and then I want you to run out and buy the book. Because a lot of people in here have read the book, and it's a bestseller, and it's a story about my life in baseball. But it's also a story about faith, and it's also a story about how you handle stuff. And not that I want people to feel sorry for me, but the book, I wrote the book to help people, to help young people, to help parents, to help grandparents, to help everybody. 1990, we were on top of the world. We had the best team in baseball, the Pirates, but we didn't win. Okay? We had some pretty good players. A guy by the name of Bonds, a guy by the name of Van Slyke, Padilla, Draybeck. We were pretty good. And one afternoon, during spring training, I got a phone call from my 17-year-old daughter in Texas. And she said, Dad, I have something I want to tell you. And I thought, wow, this ain't gonna be good. She says, I have a brain tumor and I'm sorry. She was apologizing to me, apologizing for her getting a brain tumor. Rushed home. She had an operation in Arlington, Texas. And when the doctor came out, he told me, I said, tell me straight up. Don't be telling me a bunch of junk. Tell me straight up. He said, Rich, she has 9 months to live. And you don't have anything, you've never rehearsed that, you don't practice that, you're not prepared for it. Senior in high school, like all these beautiful girls here, great athlete, playing, all of a sudden, you're told in 9 months that her life is over. Well, during that year, she had chemo, and she told me, Dad, you go back to Pittsburgh, you coach that team, and you get to the World Series. Or during the summer, Jim Leland, he said, let's fly her up for a game or something. And I said, well, let's wait till the playoffs in October. So he flew her up to Pittsburgh. We're playing the Braves, the 5th game. Your man, Bob Walks, pitching. And we win the game, and after the game is over, we're driving back to the hotel. She has to go back to Dallas in the morning. She leans up, grabs me around the neck. She goes, Dad, when here's a guy on second, you get down in that stance and you cup your hands. What are you telling him? The chicken runs at midnight or what? And I was like, what is that? And all our kids were laughing and everything. She said, I don't know, it just came out. So as fate would have it, we get into the playoffs. We played the Atlanta Braves in the Sid Bream game. We get beat, and we did not get to go to the World Series. But right before that game in Atlanta, there was a note that was sent down for me from the office, and it said, Dear Dad, chicken runs at midnight, love Amy. It was great. Well, they're doing the pregame introductions, where they line you up on the field, and they had a boom microphone. And we had a second baseman, Chico Lynn. And Chico saw the note. He didn't know what it meant. But as he goes out on the field, the microphone picks him up. He's shaking hands. He's going, chicken runs at midnight, chicken runs at midnight. And people are going, what the heck is that? She was back in Texas, and she heard it, and she went crazy. She felt like she was part of the team. Again, we lose the game, did not get to go to the World Series. In January of that year, she lapsed into a coma, and on January 28th, she passed away. And like I say, there's no practice for that. You can rehearse it, you can read books. There's no practice for that. So it became, in our family, like a motto. every time we wrote a letter, we didn't have phones like you all did with the Twitter and stuff. We just wrote CRAM, Chicken Runs at Midnight. And 5 years later, Jim Leading gets a job in Florida with the Marlins. So down we go. And we thought we had a pretty good team, but we ended up, I think we won the wild card. And right during the season, we acquired a second baseman who's now the manager of the Milwaukee Brewers, Craig Counsell. And my sons, Mike and Tim, they were the bat boys. And Craig used to hit like this, and he flapped his arms, so my kids called him the Chicken Man. And I never paid any attention to him. They said, hey, the Chicken wants to take some ground balls. I said, who? They go, Counsell. He wants to take some ground balls. He wants to hit extra. Okay, Chicken, big deal. He's the Chicken. 7th game of the World Series, 70,000 people, Pro Player Stadium. We're playing the Cleveland Indians. 11th inning, you know how it is. You can't even spit. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It's an out-of-body experience. And Craig Counsell standing next to me on third. I'm coaching third. Edgar Renteria gets a base hit off Charles Nagy. We win the World Series. Your dream. All those games, like you said, you play out in the yard. And I see my son, Tim. And he's running at me. He's screaming. His face is red. I said, what's wrong with you? He said, Dad, look, look. I said, look where? What are you talking about? He said, Dad, look at the clock. I turned around, looked at the stadium clock. It was 12:02 midnight. He said, Dad, the Chicken ran at midnight. Wow. Somebody once told me that there's only two kind of people. Those that are humble and those that are about to be. And that night I was about to be. And in my life, I was the third base coach. I waved everybody home. That's what you do. But in my life, I needed to be waved back home. And my daughter, Amy, she waved me back home to where I was when I was a little kid, when I was a better person. Because I got out of the baseline in my career. And I need somebody to get me back in. And I thought it was all over. And as time goes on, it's 20-some years now, and her memory is still, people all around the country know it, and if you read the book, you'll see. And I thought it was all over. And 2 years ago, I get a call from my son, Tim. And he said, Dad, he says, Michael was killed tonight. 20 minutes later, I got a call from the Texas Highway Patrol telling me what happened. My son Mike was driving home, saw a car being pushed sideways, got out to help it, went to push the car. Car came around the bend 60 miles an hour. He grabbed the girl, total stranger, threw her out of the way. He was hit immediately at 65 miles an hour, saving her life. Last November, that girl's name is Lindsay Longoria. She had a baby boy in November. His name is Michael Donnelly Longoria. So all these things that happened, wait a minute, I'm not done yet. My two daughters, Tiffany and Leanne, in 2017, right after that, they were at the Las Vegas concert. Remember? Shooting? They were standing right where Steve and I were, and the bullet went right between their head and hit the lady in front in the face. Everybody panicked, everybody ran. There were two girls that didn't run. My daughters. They laid on top of her, they put a tourniquet around her neck, she got shot in the face for 15 minutes of shooting. That's a long time. And saved her life. And Natalie, her name is Natalie, she calls me about twice a month now saying, do you realize what your daughters did? And in this life, we talked about, we're supposed to be heroes to our kids. I'm supposed to be the big hero, went to the big leagues. And after that, you feel about this tall, that doesn't mean nothing. It's how you are towards your family. My kids became my heroes and still are. So I tell all the parents, I tell all the grandparents, don't do what I did. Don't let my ambition of getting here and ignore my kids. If my daughter says, Dad, come out and throw me some pitches, I know she's not going to play in the big leagues. Get out in the yard. That game you're watching, you can tape. If they say, Dad, are you coming to watch me play tonight? You think, oh God, you stink, your team stinks. Go. It means the world to them. Someone told me about 2 days after my daughter passed away, they said, do you have any idea how much you meant to your daughter? And I had the worst answer I could ever have. And the answer was no, I did not. It was all about me. All about ego, getting a job, going to the big leagues, blah, 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 hanging out with all the stars. I missed it. I passed her right up and missed it. So my message here tonight is to the parents, to all you kids, don't take any day for granted. Suck every hour and minute out of every day. It goes fast. We all can sit here tonight and we can remember back when we were 8 years old. We were 8 years old, we were 6 years old, and we dreamed, and we thought, boy, if I could just grow up, and all of a sudden, Dickie, you're the young one here, we're in our 70s. I said, what happened? What happened? Who blinked? Where'd it go? Don't let it get by you. Don't let it get by you. And you young kids, you think you're going to be in high school forever? You're not. That is going to go like this, and you're going to be in college like this, and you're going to be out of college into the world. And hopefully, if you want to reach your dreams, like Dickie said, you go until they can't tell you that you can't go no more. You do everything you can. You work, you do your drills, you do everything. You girls want to play softball or volleyball or whatever you play in college, go for it. Go for it. And if you miss, you miss. So what? Like all the great records in baseball, there's also other records, like they were talking about Brett Favre having all the interceptions and everything. But don't let one day go by. Don't let one day go by without acknowledging your kids. And you kids, when you walk out that door in the morning, give your mom and dad a hug. Give them a kiss. Because you never know. You never know. And all you kids, you work your butt off. All your athletes here, I know you all want to keep going. I see some of you already in college. That's great. You just keep going. You keep fighting every day. And like I say, it's been a pleasure for me to be here, to share my story with you. I don't want you feeling sorry for me. I want you to take it and be better than that. Be better than I was. Like I say, I was so fortunate to have these two guys, such competitors. You must be a competitor to play sports. You must be. You just can't go out and do it by yourself. You must be a competitor. Two of the best of all time. Thank you so much for having me here. May your chicken always run at midnight.
Rich, you don't see a grown man cry. Come on. All right. Similar situation that I can attest to, and Richie, I lost my mother when I was very young, and she was an inspiration to me. So I can understand what people go through, and it's just a test, something to have you prove that the will is strong, and you want to survive and do things that sometimes you're not supposed to do, but the will is strong because the brain works in so many strange ways. But that's part of what life's all about. I mean, you can do things if you tell yourself. I look back as a kid growing up, I'm a Canadian, growing up in a small farming community, Chatham, Ontario, 22,000 people, and you want to do something with your life. And as a kid, 14 years old, my dad knew a couple of friends that knew Dick Night Train Lane. Anybody remember that name? Yeah. Okay. Great football player. Played with the Detroit Lions. And I got an opportunity to meet him in Tiger Stadium along with Roger Brown. The guy was 300 pounds. He cast a shadow on you. And you're 14 years old. And my dad said, if you want to accomplish something, just look at what these gentlemen have done with their lives. So I told myself, I want to be an NHL hockey player. And that's a bubble that burst all of a sudden when it didn't happen. Willie O'Ree was a player of color, was the first player to play with the Boston Bruins, player of color. So my dad took me to an exhibition game in London, Ontario, where he was playing, and I said, I can skate as well as him at 15 years old, but it didn't happen. The bubble burst. But Gene DeJura, an area scout with the Phillies, that was a student teacher, came to my hometown on the advice of an English teacher, Jerry McCaffrey, said, there's a young kid, he wants to be a professional athlete, but he doesn't know what sport yet. Played hockey, basketball, baseball, ran track. And the nice thing about it is that he kind of convinced me that I wasn't a first baseman. I was really a pitcher. And it took a month or so for him to convince me, going to a local gymnasium and throwing, and all of a sudden, I could see I was throwing the ball pretty hard, working pretty good. And the nice thing about it is that at the age of 16, I took over pitching assignments and won some ball games in my local hometown, Chatham, Ontario. I pitched a 2-hitter, 1-hitter in the playoffs, OBA playoffs, threw a no-hitter, and all of a sudden now I got the Tigers, I've got Pittsburgh, the Red Sox, the Cubs, and of course the Phillies. I got like 5 teams looking at what I was capable of doing. And I ended up, when I graduated high school at the age of 18, I signed with the Phillies. But to get back to what burst the bubble was my mom. My mom developed glaucoma when she was 26 years old. I was born when she was 27. And the nice thing about growing up as a kid, you're a kid. Didn't really understand why my mother didn't have sight. She never had an opportunity to see me play, hockey, basketball, whatever sport, and especially baseball, when I got an opportunity to sign professionally. But she was the inspiration, just like Richie was talking about. You have to have somebody that all of a sudden stimulates you as an individual to get you to do something, well, basically, maybe not out of the realm. But I told myself that I was going to get the opportunity to be a professional athlete and to do something with my career as a professional. And Gene DeJura was one of those inspirations. He was the mentor, I think the guy that was my mentor, saying that if you're going to do something with your life, do it as best as your ability as you can. And this is what I tried to do. I signed with the Phillies, 18 years old, went to Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and Franklin Casey was the manager. Dick Allen was my roommate. I smoked cigarettes like a chimney. There were 5 guys in the room. Richie Haynes, Dick Edwards, Bobby Sanders, Dick Allen, Richie Allen then, and myself. And they called the place the Lighthouse in Williamsport, Pennsylvania. I slept on a cot. There wasn't that much room in that lighthouse. But the nice thing about it is we were all athletes trying to get to the big leagues, trying to prove the organization we were better than A-ball. And a month later, I went to D-ball. There was 13 minor league teams in the Philly organization. 4 of them were D-ball. So I went down, I was 18, with a bunch of other youngsters, Alex Johnson, Grant Jackson, remember those names? All Phillies, Pat Corrales, there was a bunch of us all sent to D-ball. And we struggled a little bit. Andy Semenick was my manager, and it took a while to understand what fundamentally what the Phillies wanted all these young players to do, and that was to win. And that's the nice thing about it. Get a chance to win. And graduated from D-ball, went to Buffalo, AAA, back to AA, Chattanooga, back to Little Rock, and then I got to the big leagues. And The nice thing about it is once you get to the big leagues, you're a big leaguer. But I was only a big leaguer with the Phillies for 38 days. 38 days. Came up in September call-up 65. 30 days, got a chance to pitch and win some ball games. The next year, 66. Boom. My number was 46. I took Dallas Green's number, of all things, 46. And then the next year, in 66, I gave me the uniform number 30. So I'm opening up the season, boom. Got a chance to pitch against Cincinnati, pretty good. About 4 days later, they called the players in, and I was one of those guys, and they waited for Herrnstein and Adolfo Phillips to show up because they're playing that night. It's going to be in the starting lineup. So I'm sitting in the room with John Quinn, general manager, G. Mock. Adolfo shows up, Herrnstein shows up, and we're just sitting there. And then he makes an announcement, Quinn, standing up, and you're pretty young, 20, 21 years old. And he says, well, the Phillies have made a 5-player deal with the Chicago Cubs. Chicago Cubs, the last place team. For Larry Jackson and Bob Buell. And he said, you 3 players have been traded for the other 2. And Adolfo Phillips starts to cry. I said, Adolfo, we're not getting executed, we're just getting traded. Back then, you had 24 hours to report. So I'd just gotten married. We jumped in my car. I had a brand new Bonneville. Had to drive from Philadelphia to Chicago. And we're staying at the Edgewater Beach Hotel, Pink Hotel. I remember that because we were on the road. Hotel. So, boom, now I'm a Chicago Cub. And first guy I meet when I get to the ball club is Ernie Banks, Mr. Bubbly. Oh, you're a Philly. No, you're a Cub. Okay, great, I'm a Cub. So, but the nice thing about it is that trades are part of baseball. When I look back, you know, if it had to been for that particular deal, and people go, well, that's the worst deal the Phillies ever made. Good for me. Got a chance to play. Got a chance to do what I thought I was capable of doing in another uniform. But to throw the story back a little bit, I understand that things you can't, to me, understand, or you can't do without saying that all of a sudden you're thrown into a different scenario, being traded. I don't know how many players have been traded. Rich was traded? Dickie?
A lot.
And released.
Yeah, and released, that's it. But what's nice is that you try to make the best of it, okay? And my mother, God rest her soul, she died very young. She was a Baptist. I had to go to church 3 times on Sunday, being a Baptist. Had to teach Sunday school, sing in the choir, and then take my mother to church in the evenings. And she used to always say, if you don't trust and read the Bible and understand what the Bible's trying to teach you, you're going to soon meet the devil. When I got traded to the Chicago Cubs, I met the devil. And his name was Leo DeRocher. Tougher than a night in jail. And I've never been in jail. But that's part of what sports is all about. You're going to meet tough guys that are going to try to get you to do the correct things. And I was very fortunate enough to have Leo as a manager. And he gave me that opportunity to pitch. I started in the bullpen. Then he gave me a starting job. Won the job. Became a starter. And then at the end of the 66 season, he took 5 pitchers aside. Rich Nye, Joe Necro, Kenny Holtzman, Bill Hands, and myself. And he said, come the 67 season, 4 of you guys are going to be the starters on the ball club. And we were all 21, 22 years old. And lo and behold, got a starting assignment. I was opening day pitcher against Jim Bunning of the Phillies. And I beat the Phillies 4-2. That's how it all started. And when you think about being at the right place, right time, it all worked. That was the start of probably the best thing in my career. I ended up winning 20 games that year, 20-11. On my last start for the 20th win, when I look back, if it wasn't for Leo DeRocher, the devil as I call it, I wouldn't have won and played as well. You know, so many things happen to you in the game of baseball, and some funny things. Funny things, you know. How many people have been to St. Louis? The Chase Park Plaza Hotel? None, okay. It's probably torn down now, because I'm pretty old. Back then they had the service elevator was operated by a gentleman running the elevator up and down, okay? We get into St. Louis, my roommate's Adolfo Phillips, and we beat the Cardinals pretty good that day, and we're going to go to the Gaslight Square, and curfew was 2.5, 3 hours after game. And we show up, it's 2 o'clock, and we're creeping into the hotel, go through the lobby, nobody there, we're looking around, no coaches, we're gonna go to our room. We're on the 15th floor, the elevator operator opens the door, the gates open up, and he says, hey guys, I have a nephew, and you guys are really good athletes. You think I can get you to sign this ball for me? I said, fine, I'll sign it. I took the ball, put my name on it, gave it to Adolfo, he signed it. Boom. The next day, Leo said, we've got 11 guys that I know broke curfew. Leo didn't see me. He's like, did he see you, Adolfo? He's right beside me. I said, no. He says, I have a baseball here with 11 signatures on it. I don't care what you guys think, but I need $100 on my desk before the game starts. Oh, I had to write a check because I didn't have $100 on my name, and I said, "Oh shit!" From then on, I never signed a ball in the hotel. If anybody asks, no, sorry, you're not getting my signature. But you know, some crazy things happen. I mean, it's part of what, and it's funny sometimes when you think about it. You know, spring training is a fun deal. It's 6 weeks. And it's the time that you really get in shape. And in Arizona, the team was in Scottsdale. And the Giants are in Phoenix. Oakland is in Mesa. The Angels are in Palm Springs, and Cleveland's in Tucson. There's only 6 teams in the league, in the Cactus League. San Diego is in Yuma. Anybody ever been to Yuma? Jeez. Don't go to Yuma. That is the armpit of the world right there. All right. So there's 6 teams. So the Cubs got to play the Giants a lot. And Willie McCovey and Willie Mays and Jim Ray Hart and Willie Kirkland and Jim Ray. There's so many guys, and they're pretty good ball players. So my first assignment, pitching with Marichal, go out there and play, and he's an opposing pitcher, and I'm getting up a few hits. You're only allowed to pitch maybe 30, 40 pitches, and I got to face McCovey. He hits a ball out of the ballpark, and I went, man, I'm 22 years old. How am I going to survive with this guy? I'm going to go on the West Coast and play against this guy. Oh, jeez. And he's just tearing up the league. And we got to play the Giants probably 8 to 10 times in spring training. And he is hitting every right-handed pitcher like he owns them, myself included. We open up on the West Coast, and I'm playing against Gaylord Perry, pitching against Gaylord Perry, and I'm pretty proud of myself. He's opening day pitcher, and I'm opening day in San Francisco. And in the first inning, McCovey hits a ball off me. I had a chance to watch it. It went that far. And in Old Candlestick Park, it's wide open, okay? Went past the flagpole, over the player parking lot, into the fan parking lot, about 650 feet. Oh, man. You know, Fergie takes can throw him a long way, to my son. I didn't want to say that. Okay, the same result. I ended up losing the ball game. San Francisco comes into Wrigley Field about a month and a half, 2 months later. Same result. I give up a couple of key base hits to McCovey. I can get Mays out, get Jamie Hart out, Davenport. McCovey's just a thorn in my side. Boom, lose the ball game. Towards the end of the season, September, we go out because we have to play the West Coast team 18 times. So we got to go out there, face the Giants 3 times. So, boom. Go out, get to San Francisco. Ernie Banks is my roommate. We get to the hotel, we're waiting on our luggage to show up. Just sitting there on the bed, waiting for somebody to bring the luggage up. Phone rings. Boom, 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 phone rings. Ernie says, get the phone. So I pick it up. Hello? Hello, who is it? This is a concierge. Your car is here. I said, Ernie, you have a car? He said, no, find out what it's all about. Sir, who's the car for? The car's for Ferguson Jenkins. Mr. McCovey wants to make sure he gets to the ballpark on time. I kind of smiled a little bit, and I went, are you definitely sure? Yeah. McCovey wants, there's a car in the lobby here waiting for you. Cadillac limo. I said, okay. So we took it to the ballpark, a bunch of us piled in. But that's, things like that. To me, it was funny, but it wasn't funny. So we all took it to the park, and, but, funny things like that. And I hope that the story's true. He went 0 for 3 that night. Because I told Randy, tell him what's coming. Didn't get any hits. It's a funny situation where you play the game and you're hoping you're having fun and you're really enjoying it. So in the National League, you got to play the Dodgers, and my opponent was never Sandy Koufax. It was always Drysdale. So we're out there in Chavez Ravine, we're playing against the Dodgers, and my opponent's going to be Drysdale. And I'm thinking about that, thinking a little bit about it. Okay, but now I got to think about the starting lineup. You got Wills, Junior Gilliam, 2 Davis brothers, Tommy and Willie Davis. And then you got the rest of the ball club. And I said, well, if you're going to try to beat the Dodgers, you got to beat the first 4 guys. You can't let them beat you. Okay. Drysdale starts the game. He gets Kessinger out, Beckert out, Williams out, boom, innings over. My time to run out there, get my warm-up pitches done with Randy. First hitter's Maury Wills. He's hit the switch hit, and he's hitting left-handed off me. I throw a pitch down and in, slider, and he jumps out of the way and he kind of stares at me. What's a stare? Okay. I throw another fastball hard in, he stares again. I don't want to walk this guy because the year before he's just stole 100 bases. I don't want to walk him. Okay. Throw a strike, he takes, he fouls a pitch off, he fouls another pitch off. I go down there with a slider, he takes, I throw up, he doesn't swing, check swing, I walk him. I got Wills on first base. And I know he wants to go first or second pitch. Come in a stretch, hold, throw over. Hold, throw over. Now the crowd starts to boo because I'm throwing over to first base. I throw over again, I don't care. I throw over again, he doesn't go, get the pitch. First pitch to Gilliam, I hit him in the knee with a slider. Now I got first and third, first and second, nobody out. Randy Honey goes up to the mound, he goes, hey Jinx, I think we're in trouble here. All right, okay. Tommy Davis. All right, what do you want to throw Tommy Davis? I said, well, let's go slider. He said, we just hit Gilliam with a slider. We want to throw a slider for him. I said, we said right hand here. His ball's going to go away from him. Okay. Come in stretch, throw a slider down in. I bounce the ball. He makes a good recover. Runners don't advance. I throw fastball hard in, jam him, hit right to Kessinger, 6-4, 3, double play. Now I got Wills at third, 2 out. feeling pretty good. I got Willie Davis. All right. What am I going to do? Left-hander to Willie Davis. I throw one pitch up, and then he pops up to the infield. Sandal catches the ball. I'm out of the inning. I throw 14 pitches. Not too shabby. Didn't give up a run. Okay? I go through the second, and now the third inning. I come up. I walk around Roseboro. He says, "Be alive, young man." I went, "I am alive." First pitch, Drysdale throws right here. And I don't know how I got out of the way. And I'm dusting myself off, and he looked at me and he says, "Get the message, young man?" I said, "Yeah, loud and clear." I didn't throw at anybody the rest of the game. So, touche. Gotta be careful. But that's the fun part of it. You know, I mean, you're playing the game, and you hope that things work out, and you don't want to hit anybody. I hit 84 guys in 18 years. When you think about it, it's only 6 guys a year. How many did Roger Clemens hit? Randy Johnson. They probably hit 200 guys.
Many Dickie Noles hit.
Not 84, I wasn't around that long.
You know, the fun part of playing the game, when you think about it, you hope you're going to have fun. We got a situation that when I got traded to the Texas Rangers in 1974, Billy Martin was my manager. I had already had an opportunity to play for the Devil. Now I got a sidekick. This guy wants to fight every night. I mean, this guy, he comes to the ballpark with bruises on his body, he's in the whirlpool. You know, you don't want to ask him what he did or where he was. He's not going to tell you. So we're playing against, it's like the third or fourth start. We're playing against the Detroit Tigers. And American League fans, they know that K-Line's on the team, Willie Horton, Freehand, a bunch of good players. Okay, I'm into the third inning, and I'm throwing, I got a pretty good slider. Down and away, down, sinker, boom. K-Line's up at the plate, he takes a pitch. I think it's a strike, boom, it's a ball. Takes another pitch, I think it's a pretty good pitch. I end up walking. So, motion to Sandberg. "Jimmy, come on out here." Donnelly knows him. He's a rookie. His first year, he's 21 years old. I'm a veteran, 36, 37 years old. I said, "Those pitches are strikes. I want to talk to the umpire." Because now they have the DH in the American League. So I don't go to the plate. I can't hit, can't argue about certain things. But I want to talk to the umpire. And Jimmy says, "Come on, we don't want to. Let's keep the game going. There's no score yet." I says, "Come on out here, just stand right here. I'm on the mound. Come on out. Come on out." He's kicked forward. I said, "Come on out. Come on. I want to talk to the umpire." And the umpire said, "Come on, let's go, guys. Let's go." I said, Hey, Ray, that pitch is a strike to K-Line. Now I got Willie Horton. I got nobody out, K-Line on first. I could be in trouble here. That pitch is a strike, Ray. He says his name's not Ray. I said, "Yeah, it's Ray Charles." I said, "It'd be Stevie Wonder if you want it to be." He's laughing. Sonny's laughing. I'm laughing. And Billy Martin's going to top. I go, "What the hell's going on?" So I had to tell Billy the same story when I got to the dugout. Yeah. Yeah, and his name was Joe West. His first year in the big leagues. This guy, Jose Feliciano, probably. And this guy was blind as a bat. That's what he called him. He was terrible, Joe West. And he's still trying to play. An umpire. He thinks he's a player. He's terrible. Joe West. Cowboy Joe West. Yeah. If I had a horse back there umpiring, I'd probably have better luck. You know, I played with some eccentric guys, some guys that were a little cut from a different cloth. I played in Boston a couple of years. I played with Bill Lee, Spaceman. Guy had a IQ of 150. But where was it? He reads a book a day. I mean, you could talk to one subject and he'd know everything about it. You know? And then I played with Bernie Carbo, a hairdresser. Whoa, he was out there too. Then I got an opportunity. I was a teammate of Joe Pepitone. Joe Pepitone. We made a trade for him in 1970, the Cubs. He showed up from Houston, and when he showed up in the locker room, he had a carry-all bag, leather, a leather valise, another small bag. And everybody's wondering, what the hell is in the valise and the small bag? But he had a two-suiter carrying, came in the clubhouse. So everybody's just wondering, okay. Game starts, starting first baseman, boom, he's out there, first base, comes back, hits, da-da-da-da. The game's over, everybody's wondering, what's going on? Glenn Beckard, Ronnie, Billy, myself, a couple of guys. So wait, game's over, guys are getting ready to take a shower. He's still sitting in his long underwear. So we're just waiting. Guys are showering up. What's going on? All of a sudden, he takes his hat off and he takes his wig off like a double helmet. He had less hair than me. Bald as a chicken. He opened up the valise, and in the valise, there's a styrofoam head, and on the head is a wig with these big curlers on it. And in the smaller bag is a hair dryer. And he's playing with it, blowing it. Takes a shower, comes back, sits down, puts tape all over his head, and puts this thing on like a helmet. Grooms it. He says, boys, I'm ready to hit the bricks. I said to myself, you do that after every game? There's a lot of preparation there. But the funny thing about it, but nobody, to me, there was like half a dozen guys were bald in baseball, but nobody wore a helmet on top of the helmet. But he was pretty. Once he got it done, incredible. Some of the things that you see in the game, you go, wow. You know, as I said, I played for some eccentric managers. Billy Martin was the kind of guy that I wouldn't want to follow him around because you're going to get in trouble, okay? We opened up the season in '75, it was the second year, in Arlington, playing the Yankees. We had a 4-game series against them. We beat the Yankees 3 out of 4. And most of the guys hadn't got their apartments yet, or their homes, to where they're gonna live. So we're all staying at the roadway Inn. Jim Fregosi, Jim Merritt, Jeff Burrows, Toby Harrop, and stuff. We're all in the hotel bar. We're having a few pops, okay? After about an hour or so after the ball game, Billy Martin comes in, he wants to buy a round for everybody. So, all right, buys a round, pulls the tables in, there's like half a dozen of us, we're all sitting right there having a few pops. He stands up, he says, hey, everybody in the bar, I want to buy a round for everybody. We just beat the Yankees 3 out of 4. They think they're hot so-and-so. I'd like to buy a round for everybody. So this big Texas in the back says, I don't want your beer. I said, Billy, oh, come on. So Billy gets a beer, walks over to him, and before he could get within 2 steps, the guy hit Billy's hand, knocked the beer out of his hand. Before the beer hit the floor, Billy hooked him right in the neck. Okay? And then Billy's on top of him. And some guy's on top of Billy, and then all of a sudden 4 or 5 of us are on top, and there's a melee. I mean a melee. Guys are fighting in this bar. The roadway Inn. Okay. 10 minutes later, state troopers were coming in, the bartender phoned, Billy's in a handcuffs in a chair. Okay? And the bartender said, no, it wasn't Billy that started, that big Texan right there. So they take the handcuffs off Billy. I had a brand new Izod shirt. Everybody have an Izod golf shirt? $90 back then. Didn't have any buttons on it. Had it ripped right off. So I go back to my room, put another shirt back on, come back to the bar, have a few more pops. Thanks to Billy Martin. But that's the kind of guy I was. But, I mean, he didn't start fights, but he got into them. He is incredible. But that's the fun part of the game. You know, I look back, two things I'm pretty proud of. Now, anybody ever start anything in baseball that they remembered for besides being a coach, pitcher? I was the president of the Buffalo Head Gang. Anybody hear of the Buffalo Head Gang in Boston? Ever hear about it? No? Anybody ever been to Boston? All right. In 1976, I'm pitching against the Texas Rangers. I have a first base, go to cover first base, have an Achilles tear on my right leg. Boom. I'm out of the ball game. Take me to the hospital. The next day, they gave me a spinal, operate on my leg. They sent me back to Canada. I have to rehab for like 4.5, 5 months. And then the spring training starts, and we're in Fort Myers, Florida. In the interim, I had a Playboy issue. Anybody know what Playboys are? And they're all sent to the ballpark, okay? 4.5, 5 months of Playboy issues, okay? In the December issue, there's a beautiful Haitian girl. All she has on is a smile. So I tack her above my locker with tacks. And each start in 1977, I went, honey, we're going to go get it on tonight, like that. That was just me. In the back end of the locker room was Bernie Carbo, Bill Lee, Fergie Jenkins, Rick Wise, and Jim Willoughby. We didn't know that we were going to get the reputation of the Buffalo Head Gang. After a home series, halfway through the season, my picture disappears. Because of the fact that during the road trips, people get a chance to visit the Boston field, Fenway Park. But when we leave, I had the clubhouse kid put a towel over in the back end of my locker. And nobody ever bothered it. But one of the clubhouse kids said, Don Zimmer took it down before we went on the road. And I went, yeah, all right, no problem. Let it go. Okay. Mid-August, we're playing pretty good in 77. We should have won that particular year. That was the year of Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. Everybody remember that? The guy couldn't hit us. He couldn't hit a banjo if he had it. He hit like 125 against our pitching staff. They got the series. Okay, make a long story short, in the Boston Globe, there's a centerfold of Don Zimmer because we're playing that good. Giant head, stick arms, stick legs, and a body. So I blew it up and put it above my locker. And wrote Buffalo Head on it. And before the year was out, we were the Buffalo Head Gang. Yeah. I don't regret it, but it ended up being a true fact. The only guy that stayed with the ball club, I think, was Willoughby, because he had a great ERA. I was the first player traded. I 78, back to the Texas Rangers. Bill Lee went to Montreal. Bernie Carbo went to Cincinnati. And Rick Wise got traded, I don't know, San Diego, I think. But we're all gone except Willoughby. The Buffalo Head Gang got broken up. And we were at the back end of the locker room. But we were the mainstay of the team. 3 pitchers and a hitter. Bernie Carbo could hit, and the rest of them were pitchers. Pretty good. So when you look back, and it's a famous photograph now. You can, if you go online, you can probably see it. Anybody have Google? On your phone? The Buffalo Head Gang, Boston. I don't think I've got much more to say. But anybody have any questions about baseball or basketball? I played 4 years pretty good basketball in high school, and I played 3 years with the Globetrotters. With Meadowlark, Curly, Bobby Joe Mason, Leon Hilliard, Jumpin' Jackie Jackson. Here's a great story. Anybody, college student here, colleges? Any older gentlemen, gray-haired guys, went to college? Do you remember the old basket? It used to be square, and the basket. Anybody ever think that anybody could ever get anything off the top of it? Jumpin' Jackie Jackson could leap 12 feet. He could take a coin off the top. The basket's only 10, but he could go up 12 feet and take a coin off the top. I actually seen it a couple of times. He was an incredible jumper. But that's another story. Any questions? Don't be bashful. We got a few minutes, right, Lou? If not, I'll tell another story.
Dick Allen.
Question. Oh,
What about Dick Allen?
Dick Allen story.
A Dick Allen story? Well, in 1963, 4 players of color play in Little Rock, Arkansas. Dick was one of them. Marcelino Lopez, Cuban, Richard Cato, Panamanian, Dick Allen from the United States, Fergie Jenkins, Canadian. 3 pitchers and 1 outfielder. Dick Allen got booed the first month and a half, and then he became the MVP of the Coast League. What a hell of a ball player he was. Should belong in the Hall of Fame. Yeah.
Who's the hardest guy you had to face?
Got to come up there with a bat.
Yeah.
Many of them.
Name one
As an
guy
individual?
you had a hard time.
Here's a name. How about Don Pavletic? Anybody know that name?
Catcher.
He's a catcher.
Catcher with Cincinnati. He pinch hit 4 times against me, got 4 hits. Roberto Clemente was tough with Pittsburgh. On the West Coast, probably Willie McCovey. In the American League, Rod Carew. Guys that got their hits, you know, they're just hitting machines. Guys you get 220 hits a season, everybody's going to get punished, for sure.
What pitcher did you admire the most?
Fergie Jenkins. You know, Bob Gibson and I probably hooked up about a dozen times, and I still have the winning hand. Poor Bob Gibson. Pitched a lot against Marichal, Drysdale, Maloney, Seaver, geez, Carlton, holy smokes, God. You know, I didn't admire the other guy I played against, but I wanted to beat him. But the nice thing about it is that's great competition. The only way you're going to be competitive is to try to beat one of the best. So I look back at it.
didn't you beat Bob Gibson and hit a home run off of him too?
Yeah, really. Yeah. Any more? Don't be bashful. Yes, young man.
What's your take on this pitch count
My take on the pitch count?
in today's game?
You know what Warren Spahn called them? He called them all wimps. But I'm not going to say that. I think they're protecting the players. Guys make a lot of money.
Too much protection.
Well, yeah, I threw every day. I had a rubber arm. I pitched 21 seasons, never had a sore arm because I threw a lot. I ran all the time. But I think it's just a different part of an era, a different part of what the game's all about. The ball's lively. The ballparks are smaller. Well, that's another thing. How many Dodger fans are here? Anybody ever been to Chavez Ravine? I mean, it used to be 420 to center field. Now it's 400. And the gaps used to be 395. Now they're 375. These guys are jumping over the wall, making a catch. When I played, they stand on the warning track and caught it right here. I mean, they're all small. Fenway Park never changed the dimensions. Wrigley Field. Shea Stadium was one of the bigger ballparks in baseball, but they brought the fences in, brought the plate up. You know, all the ballparks were small. Plus, Rawlings won't attest that the ball is being lively. That ball, you ever hold the ball up here, you can hear it's got a heartbeat. It's alive. You throw it. You know, I used to throw balls, they went 320, now they go 420 when you hit the ball now. It's incredible. It's crazy. Yes.
Aside from the teams you played for, what was your favorite stadium to pitch at?
My favorite, what again?
Stadium to pitch at. Other than one team.
It's about Yellowstone Park. You know, I wouldn't give up a home run in Yellowstone Park, I know. Maybe some ground rule doubles. You know, I just think that the ballparks are so small now. You know, Candlestick Park is a good park to pitch in. The Astrodome came into effect in, I think it's 64. I pitched there quite a bit. As I say, Shea Stadium was a big ballpark. I beat the Mets a few times. Old Connie Mack Stadium. I hate to bring it up, Philly fans. When I got traded, my record against the Phillies was 26-9. And Gene Block said they needed pitching. That's neither here nor there. You know what's nice? When you pitch in a ballpark and you have some success and then you can compound it the next season. The old Crosby Field is a good ballpark to pitch in, Cincinnati. You know, Wrigley Field to me, day baseball was the epitome of baseball then. We didn't have lights until '88. And my whole career, 10 years there, pitching day baseball. Up in the morning, eating with my kids, up to the park. They'd be dressed on the field at 9:15. Game's over. We started 1:05. Game's over at 3:30. You know, 2.5, maybe at the most, less than 3-hour games. Now every game's 4 hours. God, I think I get bored watching games now. That's why I stopped coaching. How'd you do it all those years?
Wow. Maps.
Yeah, I know. Yes.
Where do you stand with the current events going on now with Houston and Boston?
No.
You don't want me to be a critic, do you?
You're among friends.
You know, I think I mentioned it today. Peanuts Lowry was hired by the Cubs with Leo to steal signs from the manager to the third base coach. And you would watch the indicator, the cheek, the hat, the chin, whatever, shoulder, and you could tell the hit and run, the bunt, you know, that type of thing. But now with television, you know, and it's really remarkable. There's a television in every dugout. And then you can see them, you want a replay, the player throws his arms up, oh, it's safe. So now you got a chance to rerun it and see exactly that he beat the play at first base. The ball hadn't hit the glove, or that phantom catch at second base. He didn't tag the bag. He missed me. I just think that it's given management or the players an opportunity to do what they do best, try to get an edge. And that's what you want, is an edge. And to steal signs, it's only natural.
Should they be stripped of
See, you want to put me behind the 8 ball. I don't know if since you got suspended or fired, I don't know, but they have been. So that's management have done. They let the players go, they let the general managers, the managers go, which I think in some instance is the right thing. But you can't let every team, because every team's going to try it. And if they haven't done it, they're going to get found out they did try it, because everything's replayed nowadays, you know, so it's part of what the game's all about. Take TVs out of the dugout. When you have a game of the week, center field, or one down each line, and have the right people operating those television cameras, you know.
Do one more, Fergie.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
In baseball, I'm a 1952 Dodger fan.
All right.
And when you were given the ball, you went out and threw the game. That was your job for the day. You pitched 9 innings. You didn't have 15 guys in the bullpen to save you. When did it start to change that you don't have that today? You don't, no starting pitcher is going to win all these games because we're going to 5-6 pitchers to pitch 9 innings. When I saw Don Newcomb pitch a doubleheader. You wouldn't find a major league pitcher today that can do that. They can't even go.
I seen Wilbur Wood do it with the White Sox. Yeah, you're right.
From a baseball standpoint, what do you feel is better the athlete? The guy that can go out there and do the job for 9, or this constantly paying guys $4 million to pitch 1 minute? To me, the game of baseball has changed and was much better when those guys were playing
Right.
than it is now.
I think in the 80s, when Tony La Russa had such a good bullpen with Eckersley and a few other guys, that the starting staff only was supposed to go 7 because they had a guy to do the 8th and the 9th. And then Torrey took over with the Yankees. That was just a trend that they started. And now somebody else decided that maybe just 100 pitches is all you need from your starting pitcher. Now it's 90. And in the playoffs, they take guys out in the 4th inning. They're winning the ball game 3-1. They take them out of the game.
How many pitches were you throwing at that stage?
In a ball game,
2 out of 100.
maybe a good ball game, maybe 100, 110, maybe 150, maybe more. It all depended, it depended on Leo or Billy Martin leaving me out there. I had Pat Corrales as the manager, Frank McCasey too. If he thought your capabilities were still there, you stayed in the ball game. But the most, maybe 150. There was a game with it, Marichal and Warren Spahn. Marichal threw like 200 pitches in a ball game, a 16-inning ball game. The guy stayed in the game 16 innings. It's unheard of. It just doesn't happen. But the game has changed. It's going to evolve again. It's like a circle. It'll all change. It'll get back to where it should be. The stamina of an athlete is only proven by experience and test. And for going out there on a daily basis, every 4th or 5th day and doing it, the management will say, hey, we're going to leave this guy in the ballgame long. We're going to leave him in the game because he's still capable of winning. And it'll all change again, believe me. One more, just quick.
Who's your favorite, and who's your least favorite Hall of Famer?
My least favorite Hall of Fame? See, you're going to get me in trouble. How many reporters we got here? Yeah, come on.
Other than Ferguson Jenkins.
Least favorite Hall of Famer? Oh, jeez.
So who's your favorite other than you?
Favorite Hall of Famer? Well, I roomed with Ernie Banks the last 3 years that he played, 67, 8, 9 with the Cubs. The guy never talked about himself, always talked about the team and what they were trying to improve. But he was Mr. Wrigley's favorite. Mr. Wrigley was the owner of the ball club when I was there. There's no least favorite. These guys put up great numbers. They put up great numbers, all these guys in the Hall of Fame. Now, the question mark is, are they going to let the PED guys in? What's going to happen within the next 4 or 5 years? They're going to go in. So they're not my least favorite because guys put up great numbers. But the Hall of Fame is a museum, not baseball. All right.
That's a great answer.
Yeah, thank you. Once again, I want to congratulate. Yes, young man. Yes. Nice and loud. I can't hear you.
I came up on your old school. I came up on the Grand Hammer, Larry Rojas. I came up through the Phillies organization. My question is to you, you keep saying baseball game is changing. Baseball game is the same. You got catch.
Just the people that run it.
I'm saying the game is the same.
Right.
You got to throw it, you got to hit it.
Yeah, baseball's baseball. I mean, you got to get 6 outs an inning, 3 on each side. Players got to go out there and fulfill their duties of playing shortstop, second, pitching, catching, whatever. That hasn't changed. But management has changed the game. And a lot of people that are running the game now never put a jock strap on. Believe me. They're all graduates from college and this new thing of analytics. Analytics. But I mean, it's just, it'll evolve again. It'll get back.
What would you tell the young guys coming up now then?
Pursue what your career is. So you pursue your position. Don't let people change your mind about what your capabilities are or what you're trying to do. Work hard, because every time you put a uniform on, I tell kids all the time, when you put that uniform on, somebody's watching. So do your job. Do it the best you can. And you're not going to win out every game, but they're going to see that ability you've got and the capabilities you're able to do. So, once again, thanks, Lou, for being invited me. Doug Coberly and Associates, thank you. And all the award winners, scholarships, Congratulations. Do the right thing. Good things will happen. Because in the real world today, it's a little tough when you're out of school. Believe me, like Rich was saying, when you graduate high school and college, you're going to get into the real world. And now you understand what Dad learned and what your mom learned, what the world's all about. So thank you very much.
Let's hear it again for Tom Freeze, Rich Donnelly, Dickie, Noles, and Fergie Jenkins. Congratulations again to all of our scholarship winners, all of our MVPs, and our team champions. Thank you so much for attending again. If you want to help out with the Hot Stovers, make sure you see a board member or go to the website. We would love to have your help. We thank you for attending. Have a safe trip home. We will see you back here next year for the 60th anniversary of the Hot Stovers Banquet. Thank you and good night.